we need to talk about Sean Wilson, also known as Martin Platt. By the actor's name and the character in Coronation Street, it has finally been revealed why his character was very quickly brushed under the rug and axed from the show. We're going to go through an interview that he's done with both The Sun and a copy from Digital Spy, where he explains why he was axed, what went wrong, and how, he is claiming it to be a pretty big injustice, and it feels very unlikely that we'll ever see him return as Martin Platt. So, yeah, I'll set the scene. So, Helen Worth, who plays Gail Platt, who is retiring after 50 long years on Coronation Street. She wants to be done, she wants to retire, she's seemingly in pain, and she's seemingly not, dealing with it as well as she would like. That's fine, upsetting, tragic, but most soap characters don't really know when to bow out gracefully. Like Ken, I don't really think Ken's ever gonna stop unless he genuinely just dies. So how are you gonna have her exit? Well, it was revealed and it was announced that they were going to bring back Martin Platt, who is probably the good egg out of all of Gail's previous marriages. He did not try to kill her. He did cheat on her with a teenager, but he didn't try to kill her. In terms of Gail Platt, his record is squeaky clean. So he was going to return, and it was going to be this big love story about finding love and finding the one you're supposed to be with, and Gail was going to go off into the sunset, a swan song for the character, leaving her character in a much better place than it was before, and finally allowing her that peace and allowing her the pleasure of allowing her to walk away from the show in glamour. So Martin Platt, like I said, father of David, and some really interesting drama, as Martin would probably be telling her, look, you're struggling, you can see you keep going like this, you might have a heart attack. And they were probably going to get married, and it was going to be a nice swan song for the characters. They got announced, he was shown on the cobble, it's like, I'm back, with all the scripts. He was really excited, doing a lot of press, because, Martin Platt's a fairly big character on the show for a lot of time. Last time he was here was 2017 in the aftermath of David's rape storyline. He noticed he was struggling and he went to see him and he wanted to move to New Zealand with him. So it was going to be a nice love story, and in the end, it's probably the husband who probably did the least damage to Gail. I would say Brian, but I don't know Brian Tilsley at all, so I can't be sure. But yes, so it was announced, he came back, he was shown on set, look, we're doing it. But very quickly on, after he returned, it was said, Sean Wilson is stepping down for personal reasons. He is off the show. All the scenes are going to be reshot with someone else. We're not doing it. He has been taken off the show with no real reason till now. And I think I may have mentioned it in the previous video I did about when you talk about Gail Platt, as there was a rumor going around that there was a historical, sexual abuse, sexual assault going on with a long-running character in the 90s. Now, whether it was the character in the 90s or the character or the actor in the 90s was unprecedented, but I think it was that's what people kind of went on for, because why else would he get whisked off the set and they would act like he didn't actually exist? And now it has been revealed in an interview with The Sun. I'm reading a version of Digital Spy. Says, and he goes and talks about it. Wilson said that he'd been axed from the soap due to a pending inquiry into an alleged indecent assault from 1997. Police cleared Wilson last week and said there would be no further action over the claim. I had no idea who had made this complaint or anything about it, but I'd lost my job. It's been hell. I've been low all the way through, Wilson said. He explained that he got the call to reprise the role of Martin in February, and jumped at the chance, adding, "Helen and I go back a long way. I wanted to be the person that she left with, and I think the viewers did as well." However, after filming his scenes in July, he said he received an email from soap bosses at the start of August that truly stunned him. They requested a meeting with him in which he said he was confronted with 3 executives who said they had received an allegation and that I had put my hands up a woman's skirt, end quote. They also said police had contacted them and told them they had referred the case to the CPS, he continued, explaining that he was told they had to cut the contract and protect their cast. "I told them I knew it hadn't happened and I deserved a chance to convince them, but they said once it had become a police matter, they couldn't do anything." Coronation Street has told Digital Spy it has no comment to make this time. Wilson said the woman who made this allegation had worked in connection to the show, but he wasn't aware of any further details regarding the case until his lawyers got in contact with an officer assigned to him. According to Wilson, the detective said there were no witnesses, and the person who made the complaint hadn't told anyone about it, and they couldn't say when it happened in 1997. "I was also shocked to hear the allegation was entirely different from what ITV had said," he claimed. "The police said it was a touch on the backside over their individual's jeans on one occasion, and not a hand up a woman's skirt." He also told The Sun that the police said they'd never contacted ITV and it couldn't have been passed to the CPS as they hadn't even assigned the case to an officer at that point. Sean added that he was relieved beyond belief on November 21st when the police said there will be no further action taken over this allegation. And just to give a bit more interesting, just a bit more of a perspective, he also did a very open, interesting piece with The Sun, saying he lost out a lucrative 4-month contract and has had to shell out thousands of pounds for lawyers. "It has been great cost to me. Lawyers are expensive and I needed to hire them to protect me. ITV did pay me the contractual amount of guaranteed minimum episodes I was due to film, but I lost money on the future residuals, like episode repeat fee." Sean revealed that his role reprisal as quitting the show in 2005 was part of a wider plan for a showbiz comeback. He foresaw Panto, more telly, and even a stint on I'm a Seller, but now he doesn't even know if he's going to be marketable again. Sean, 59, said, "It's been hell. I've been low all the way through. My reputation was ruined in just 8 minutes. My whole world was blown apart. I had no idea who made this complaint or anything about it, but I lost my job." Sean, 59, sensationally quit the soap after 20 years over a plot in which his character seducing an underage girl. And that's more of what we've seen. He's having a great time on set. It was like rolling back the years. That's until I received the sudden email, which truly stunned me. And then it's that. I was so confused. I had no time to prepare. It took 10 minutes after I responded to them. They had to cut the contract to do the cast. Blah, blah, blah. Being thrown out the back door after 21s of a glittering career. We asked the ITV to supply us with the details. The police officer contacted them, but they said they couldn't give us the information to wait for the police to call us, and then later realised that they'd never got in contact with the police. I said they told me a name I didn't recognise. They don't work there now. And then, yeah, so ultimately he has been struggling completely. And he, it really has, it's 2018 they briefly returned, but ultimately everything fell apart very quickly. And that's kind of how it is in general, like as a whole, with allegations like this, it's very hard to keep any sort of career. So, but just to kind of wrap this through, and just to reiterate, because I feel like, first and foremost, the ramifications of this are obviously it derailed the Gail Pet exit storyline, which was going to be a pretty important one, and ultimately it may be the legacy of Helen Worth as 50 years on the show undermined with a really lackluster storyline that no one really gives a shit about, other than the fact that it's the last one she's probably ever gonna do. And it's the replacement of Jesse Chadwick is awful. He is terrible. He's not good. He doesn't fit the mold. He doesn't fit any of the emotional stuff. And I struggle to believe that they have any chemistry whatsoever. It is just a botched job where it's like, ah, shit, we need someone. Well, there you go. And that is criminal that is how Gail Platt's exit has been handled. But ultimately, a lot of it was already filmed, and you couldn't really go back, and you still needed to make up for lost time and add it in later. So you can understand ITV's struggle. I'll say that as well. There have been 3 very public cases of Coronation Street having a no-nonsense attitude about this, about any, sexual assault, about any sex crimes. Bruno Langley, most famously introduced Tom Gribshaw, was there from 2001 on and off again, and then exited in 2017 after there were allegations of sexual assault, which he was later charged with and found guilty. And then again, Coronation Street terminated his contract and went, "You will not appear ever again," and they've recast the character as a full show because ultimately they do not really mess around with these. Kevin Webster, a bit more of a longer running character, at least for 40 years. In 2013, Michael Lavelle was accused of sexual assault allegations, and Kevin was written out the series with the explanation he was in Germany taking care of his father, Bill Webster, to explain his absence. Lavelle was found not guilty in September of the same year and entered talks to return. He briefly returned in March 2014, 30 months since his last appearance. He departed in February 2013 and returned in March 2014 onwards. And if that is not a different thing, Ken Barlow, also known as William Roach, the longest serving Coronation Street cast member of all time, been there since the 60s. In 2013, he was arrested on suspicion of having raped a 15-year-old girl in 1967, allegation denied. Then he would be charged with 2 counts of rape, and then he was charged with a further 5 counts of indecent assault, aged between girls 12 and 16. He pleaded not guilty to all charges, and then lack of evidence, some details and 2 witnesses' account changed in the course of the trial. On February 2014, Roach was found not guilty on all charges, and then in June 2014, he started filming and returned to the screen on the 4th of August that year. So 3 very big examples of how Coronation Street doesn't tolerate this sort of nonsense. Now, admittedly, I think in this case, you can be sympathetic to Sean Wilson because he was cleared of all wrongdoing. Does that mean he didn't do it? It's a historical thing. Historical things are hard to prove. But that's not for me to speculate. That's not for you to speculate. It's his life. It's the supposed victim's life. It's their business. But it feels like he was treated very rashly in this thing, and he wasn't really given a chance to explain, which has kind of led to what he thought was a career resurgence as he returns to the top of the world, Coronation Street, Martin Platt, but very quickly and through no actions of his own, his entire life was upended, and now he has to, if he wants to do anything, which I highly doubt anybody will touch his name or as an actor, it feels like his career is over. And he said he had aspirations of having a TV comeback, maybe doing I'm a Celeb at some point. Ultimately, I don't believe there'll be any further roles for Sean Wilson, unless in due time, Coronation Street and Sean Wilson actually make up and somewhat look to rekindle that relationship. But also, this was probably going to be Sean Wilson's final portrayal as Martin Platt in general, because what does he come back to? If he comes back, it means his marriage to Gail isn't fucking working, is it? And it damages the legacy of Helen Worth as well, but ultimately it's a hard situation to control, because you have to take all allegations as serious as possible. But you can also see that ITV didn't really give Sean a chance to defend himself or actually be prepared and be like, oh, yeah, this isn't legit. This didn't happen. But you can never be too careful, I suppose. So am I really defending? I'm not defending the allegations. Those allegations have been proven to not be true. So as far as everyone is concerned, they are not true. But you can understand why they felt the need to replace it, because a case of such severity, you don't really want to be caught out having positioned someone alleged of serious crimes on a pedestal, and instead of, you want to show support, because if it was somebody who worked at Coronation Street, it could have gotten much, much worse for them. It is sad, but ultimately he's been cleared of all charges, and perhaps the end goal of this is for him to regain the goodwill that he would have lost with the allegations. But ultimately, it's a awful situation for everyone involved. Damages Helen Worth's exit, because simply saying nobody really cares about the only reason people care about Gale's exit is because it's Gale. No one cares about Jesse. He's not done a good job. He's not fit in the role at all. It's been quite miserable, and he doesn't have the capacity to actually do it well. Helen has kind of been cascaded thrown to the side in her year that she's exiting. It should be 50 years of Gale Platt. It shouldn't just be, oh yeah, she's leaving, had a heart attack, lol. Fucking, this is Gale Platt. She's birthed one of the most famous families on the show, a family that has somewhat carried the show through a lot of the new millennium, for example. I don't even. And ultimately, it's damaged Sean Wilson's reputation to such an extent that it feels very unlikely that he will ever have this chance again. Maybe there's a way to rehab his image. I don't really think there is. This is probably the first step into doing so. So, yeah. We need to talk about Sean Wilson. It's a difficult. It does feel awful that, due to an allegation that has been proven to be false, ruined Gale Platt's exit and ruined Sean Wilson's chances at coming back on our screens and being actually kind of rekindling that popularity and rekindling the on that pedestal, Coronation Street. Remember Martin Platt? Yeah, you remember Martin Platt. But in the same vein, ultimately, you do have to take these allegations very seriously. And there was no real good move they could do. Yes, perhaps they could have allowed Sean Wilson to defend himself, but also, if it was proven to be a guilty verdict, well, you've now just propositioned somebody who would be classed as a sex offender, and you've allowed him to be on your screens, possibly allowing him, if that did happen, which it didn't, possibly allowing him to do worse crime. So it's a rough one, but I do hope that Sean Wilson, now been cleared of all wrongdoing, I do hope that he manages to scrub off the cobwebs and try to regain his state in his career. Do I find it likely? No, unfortunately, but an allegation has to be tried and tested to the end. That's the matter of the fact. And obviously, if it came out that he did do it, you would happily condemn him and decide that, yes, it was a bad idea anyways. So yeah, I hope that video wasn't a bunch of waffle. Felt like a very serious topic, so important to talk about. I've been Ash from Watching Walford. Thank you for watching. Join me in the next one. See you then. Bye-bye.